ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, bring it higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. It's that time of the week for Fight Night Fortunes, UFC 313 live Las Vegas, T-Mobile. Alex Pereira versus Ankalaev, and me and Lou were talking backstage. I could have talked to him for an hour backstage, and the show would have been an hour later. I know he's busy, but an absolute war about to happen there. The headliner, is Alex going to be the great versus Ankalaev? And as Lou said on his Sneak Deep podcast on Mondays, you can go follow that at Cam Lou on Twitter. On Bet Online, minus 200. Ankalaev was opening number, of course, and now it's basically a pick 'em. So me being a diehard Alex fan, looks too good to be true. But we'll get into all that, I promise. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Terry Smith, introduce yourself on Facebook, then head over to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Chopped steaks, fillets, seafood, appetizers, wine. He's got everything. Order today. You'll be grilling by Monday. And last but never least, Viva Tequila Seltzer. 6 flavors in all. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconuts. The star of this show, Mr. Lou Finicaro.
Hi, Jeffrey. It's early March. We got fighting on our minds. And yes, there is a basketball tournament going on. And actually, it's good because that'll take some eyeballs off of us to an extent, at least distract them. But when that basketball tournament's over, from there until the Hall of Fame game in August, the UFC will be drawing tremendous attention. Our lines will be percolating. Some lines on this card have been percolating. So I'm fired up. It's a numbered event. It's a pay-per-view, and we got a lot to discuss.
Before we step into the octagon, I know you're a big college baseball guy. About a month in as we speak, this will be the 4th weekend. I'm seeing this Tennessee offense, and a good friend, Mr. Nick Hathcote, a diehard volunteer fan, of course. And they don't just hit homers, they hit grand slams. I think they're up to 7 right now. But the poll is Tennessee, LSU, LSU, Tennessee. I know you don't have we're not close to Omaha or anything. You got a slight lean early in the year, Lou, an LSU or a Tennessee?
Well, first of all, I would tell you, if you don't have them both in your futures portfolio, you're missing the boat, because every day that you wait, the number's going to get shorter on those two teams. And they're viable, but let's not make a mistake of underestimating some of these other teams in the SEC and a few of the ACC teams. But when it's all said and done, it would be foolish to think that LSU and Tennessee will not make Omaha. And I would have told you that exact same thing before the season started. Now, we haven't been into conference play yet. The injuries in baseball aren't quite what they are in football, but you get pitchers that get blisters and stuff. There's a lot of season to unfold, but I would tell you that LSU and Tennessee should be in your portfolio. If you're a college baseball fan betting now, you've missed on those two if you don't have them in a week from now, but you still got time.
Hockey NHL deadline is tomorrow. It's funny, there's a guy locally tweeting that if Sidney Crosby wants to go to the Avs, they're holding the door open. He's going to bring Brad Marsh on. NHL hockey around the corner, NBA playoffs around the corner. But as you talked about here, after the draft coming up in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, this is the highlight. This is the spotlight right here at the UFC.
Yeah, I'm not. I think the draft is really an interesting thing. It's become really, the fabulous thing to be enamored with and bet on and act smart about. And I get that. It's great for the books. I don't accept it unless you're a real pro and know what you're doing. Few people are going to win at the draft, and most people betting it miss the point. It isn't for us to try and predict what NFL teams are going to do, because I guarantee you this, sharp and square alike, you have no effing idea what an NFL team really wants to do. Yeah, you can speculate from the outside looking in all you want, but they're not telling anybody. And if anything, in the last 2 or 3 years, they've been pluming out misinformation because their business is not public matter. So they're doing what they're going to do. And the thing to do with the draft is not to try and predict it going into the draft. Rather, wait until the draft is over and then look team by team. And you have one time a year a clear vision of how that team envisions itself and pictures itself at a current state, because now they're putting this group of incoming players together coupled with their trades, and now you can see how the team looks at itself. That's the tool of the draft. The draft is critical from the day it's over after, not from the day it's over prior. That's just me.
Well, the funny thing is, COVID, I was sitting on my couch staring at my computer. It was halftime of the Big East on Friday of the quarters, and they went to the locker room at halftime at 12:38, never came back, and then COVID officially started. So the NFL draft itself really took off in 2020 because there was no action to bet on. NASCAR, some golf. So everyone flocked to it. They did a great marketing job. The DraftKings of the world get the props up. Everyone has draft parties and stuff. So since 2020 to now 2025, that thing has really taken off, Lou.
Good for the NFL, good for the draft. Just because I'm not a big participant in it doesn't mean it isn't successful and a viable gambling tool. And there's guys that do well at it. A lot of ways to make money. I'm all for it. I just choose to look at it a little differently. And for me, it's the start of the NFL season. For me, begins the day the draft is over.
Last question I will ask before we get to the 313 here. There was a tweet earlier in the week. I know you're in Arizona, right, not that far from the Cardinals. The Giants would be interested if the Arizona Cardinals traded Kyler Murray. There's no talk or chatter. That's just all garbage or hearsay. The Arizona's not moving off of Kyler Murray this year, correct?
I can't comment on that because I'm not paying any attention to NFL. Okay. I've not seen or heard any of that. But again, I'm not entrenched in local media, and I'm totally on a computer and into national stuff. I don't get a Arizona Daily Republic or any of that, so I can't comment. I will say that I like the regime in Arizona, the coach, the coaching staff, and the team, and how they've looked in the last year or so. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I was not a Kyler Murray fan in the first part of his career pre-injury. I thought he was very immature and was not a leader and not a modern quarterback, nor clearly, if he's not a modern quarterback, he surely wasn't an old style quarterback. However, since the injury and his time away, he's come back and he's looked different to me. He's acted different to me. He's been a team leader. And I was a young man once, and I would like to think that some of the mistakes that I made would be overlooked as I matured. And as this young man is maturing, I think he's realizing what he has as being a starting NFL quarterback, and he is viable for a team. It's just which team is going to want to take him. I would say if I'm Kyler Murray, I surely don't want the Giants to pick me up because the Giants are a curse. Giants are a curse to quarterbacks, but not quite as bad as the Bears, but it's still bad.
UFC 313 T-Mobile, a lot more fans obviously than an Apex, and then the Apex and the Cage a lot bigger. As you said in your Sneak Teep podcast on Mondays, 11 fights in all, 5 fights plus 170 or bigger. You're going to break down 4 fights here. I am currently on DraftKings as we speak. The first fight, Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. Currently, as we speak, Gutierrez minus 122, over 2.5, Lou, at minus 315.
Couple Hispanic fighters, which is great because when you have Hispanic fighters, you know you're going to get durability, toughness, and these granite jaws. Okay, you never heard of a Hispanic or Mexican fighter with a glass jaw. It's like impossible to happen. Now, the interesting thing about these guys is the style. Castaneda, a chain wrestler, actually worked out here at the MMA lab here in Phoenix some years ago. A good fighter, solid, well-rounded. His striking, usually wrestlers have to learn how to strike and evade strikes. He's come along well with that. He's 33 years old, and he'll be giving up a couple inches. He's the shorter man, a little more square, a little stockier. Now, Gutierrez, on the other hand, isn't a wrestler, and he needs to be more of a wrestler because his Achilles heel is that if somebody takes him down, he can't get up. Now he's a great striker, uses his feet well. He'll be the faster man, the taller man, the longer man, the man that needs to keep it on the feet. So where we watch this fight take place is going to be who will be holding advantage. And of course, all fights start on the feet. So it'll be up to Gutierrez to keep it on the feet. I go back and forth on this fight, but at the end of the day, that wrestling base is hard to beat, and the Gutierrez takedown defense is so poor that I lean to Castaneda at this point right now. Let's understand also Castaneda opened this fight as a minus 200 and minus 235. So once it was announced, money's pounded in on Gutierrez, who's always in shape, but didn't have a fight on schedule. Castaneda was preparing to fight a week or so ago. Now he has to cut weight again and come back to do it again, but he's the one with the camp. And if you have a wrestler with a full camp that's fighting in a short notice situation against a fighter that isn't a wrestler, boy, I think that cardio makes a lot of difference. Like I say, I lean to Castaneda here, the wrestling-based fighter.
Next fight on our card tonight, Pereira versus Petrosian. Right now, Pereira plus 120, Petrosian minus 142, over 2.5 rounds, plus 124, Lou.
Yeah, long, tall Russian kickboxer in Armen Petrosian. And in his last fight, he was knocked out, but overall he's durable. But he was knocked out by another, slow Magomedov, the single-eyed fighter. I'm forgetting his nickname all of a sudden. But Petrosian is durable, forward-moving, but very much like Gutierrez has to keep it on the feet. He just doesn't have the ability to keep a fighter off him from pressing him against the fence and then taking him to the floor. The good news about Pereira is just a hand grenade, and he's a power striker. He's highly explosive. He's really, really powerful. I mean, if he just throws a punch and it hits you in the chest, you can easily get knocked down just from the force. But a guy that expends that much energy and that much grip on each fight, each hurl from his legs down, he expends a lot of energy, tends to run out of gas. And the good news about Petrosian is that he is really durable, and he needs to make this fight. He needs to ensure that this fight makes the second round, because I think at that point in time, Pereira will slow. Petrosian's been there before, has a wealth of experience. And so as Ferreira slows, Petrosian will look better, more precise. And I think Petrosian wins this fight. I just don't see Ferreira as having the ability to fight for a full 15 minutes. The total, did you say, was a 2.5 rounds, and it's a plus 125 to the over. That's very interesting. I would tend to think that while Ferreira can gas, he's addressed it and he's trying to address it. And I would lean to the over here. I like Petrosian to win, but I think it's a decision.
Next fight, the co-main event, a 2-week notice for Pfizer here versus Gaethje. I'm looking at the numbers as we speak. Justin Gaethje now plus 136. Rafael is minus 162, and over 2.5 minus 130.
Okay, so this is a 3-round fight. Gaethje was going to fight Dan Hooker, and man, when they said somebody was going to go to the hospital after that fight, they were incorrect. If somebody wasn't going to go, both guys were going to go. That's the kind of fight it was going to be. So there was, all kinds of rumblings who was going to get replaced. Gaethje didn't even know for a while if he had a foe for this fight, and they found one in Fiziev. And Fiziev and Gaethje fought a couple 2.5, 3 years ago, and it was a banger of a fight where Fiziev came out smoking hot, clearly won the first round. Gaethje came back in the second round, late in the second, and evened it up, probably a round each. Then in the third round, Fiziev ran out of gas a little bit, and Gaethje really was able to start putting it on him a little bit more. Gaethje has mentioned that he wants to come out faster in this fight because he didn't really do his best work till late in that first fight. Yet before that first fight, Gaethje was talking that he needed to regulate himself and go slow. He's a smart kid, but he's 36 now. He's coming off that Holloway devastating knockout. He said that he's waited long enough and he's ready to go. And I believe him. He is. That said, he's 36. The way he fights, the damage he's taken, it's had to have taken its toll. And we're going to get a great Gaethje. And the fact that it's 3 rounds and he's had a full camp is huge advantage for him. Meanwhile, on the Fiziev side, this guy's been overcoming a beat-up knee from a year ago. And he was getting ready to fight a wrestler who in the fight against, his name is Mateus Gamrot. That's how he hurt his knee. So he's been in training camp and he's been getting ready for a fight. And so this opportunity came, he had to jump on it, but it is short notice for him. But it's not like he's been sitting eating Doritos and dip for, in front of basketball games. This kid's tight. He's compact. He's a little shorter than Gaethje, but he's 31 and he's faster. He's as powerful, and both guys will employ leg kicks. It'll be the Gaethje leg kick against Fiziev again. I think that will really need to be a present for Gaethje to have advantage. But and I keep going back and forth on. I love the Gaethje underdog price, and the fact that he won the first fight. But I think that first Max fight did affect him, and the mentality of having to come back and beat a guy a second time, as opposed to a guy that said, man, I made a lot of mistakes against you the first time, and now out of nowhere I get a chance to rectify that, forces me to regard Fiziev as a really dangerous guy in this fight.
When it comes to UFC and rematches, as you said, Gaethje won the first one, yet here we are, Fiziev on short notice, minus 162. So for myself, I'm like, Gaethje beat him the first time, but as you said, now 36, coming off of a knockout loss to Holloway. I think the price is right. And as you have taught me, a younger guy, an opportunity to get back into the ring, rematch here. When I know you're a numbers guy, but how does the rematch usually end in the UFC long term?
I don't have the numbers for that. I should. What I will say is, in the first fight, Fiziev was -2.25 when it closed.
Okay.
So he was a bigger favorite then, and Gaethje came out, and I was under the impression, because I had Fiziev in the first fight. I was under the impression that Gaethje painted his fence, really dominated him, and I was talking to a couple people I trust early in the week. They said, "No, Lou, you should go back and watch that fight. It wasn't that way." So I did, because I know when I'm right and wrong. I wasn't wrong. I went back, I watched the fight, and I was wrong. That was a really razor close fight. And the reason I thought it wasn't was because I had Fiziev, but I knew that it was going Gaethje's way after the first round. You could just feel it. So all that being said, I think, a little surprised Fiziev came the favorite after getting beat in the first fight, but it is the youth and the fact that Gaethje's coming off that Holloway devastation that I think has the market feeling this way, and has the line a little bit tighter, which it should be.
The main event, the fight everyone's talking about here, Alex Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev, currently on DraftKings. Mr. Pereira, -115. Over under 2.5, -166.
Yeah, what a great fight. Now, this is obviously 5-round championship fight. And to me, we know Pereira. The guy is wildly popular. He's becoming the face of the UFC. And let's just say right now, with the UFC and this boxing thing, the timing is perfect for Pereira to be the face of the UFC that they use in a cross-sport fight with boxing down the line for mega money. And so all kinds of what ifs and hypothetical situations are rolling around right now because of the lightning rod of popularity that is Pereira. Now, Pereira's been traveling a lot. He's been to a lot of UFC shows. I criticize Jamal Hill quite a bit for not missing a UFC event, always showing up, facing the camera. Boy, when they start enjoying the spoils of fame, that's when the corrosion has started. And Alex has shown me that he's clearly understands his position. He knows how popular he is now compared to a year ago. And to me, that can't help but affect a fighter. Meanwhile, they have, and by they, it isn't Pereira in camp, it's the UFC, have kept Pereira away from a fighter with the style of Ankalaev, a vice grip, chain wrestling, Dagestani wrestler that can strike, well-rounded. The guy's an animal. And the reason they've done that is to give him time to be able to prepare for that kind of a fight. He's had 5 years with Glover Teixeira. They believe they're ready for that. However, in their past, they've never fought anyone that's going to approach him like Ankalaev has. Every clown that's fought Pereira thought they were going to go in there and stand with him. And if Ankalaev does that, he'll get knocked out. He just doesn't. Now, if he goes in and really starts to tax Pereira with unrelenting forward pressure, presses him against the fence, forces Pereira to have to defend wrestling as opposed to make the fight on the feet, that's a whole different expenditure of energy. And you get into the championship rounds then, and now you got a guy in Ankalaev that's durable, can take a punch, also can fight from the standing position. Now you get Alex Pereira. Let's just imagine that he gets a little bit tired. And this is Ankalaev's fight if that happens. That's the Ankalaev plan. I guarantee it. And the Pereira plan, we'll have to see what that is. I would think their plan is to get him out of there really early, because I don't think they want to have to find out how well Alex can deal with the wrestling for 3, 4, 5 rounds. So this fight opens at Ankalaev -200, and didn't take long for the thing to come down and percolated even. Now it's resting here for a while, and the action's really going to start coming from today on. But I would imagine the number's going to kind of stay this way. Maybe it goes to Pereira a little bit, but I feel honestly that the Ankalaev body of work, what he brings to the fight, and the fact that while Pereira's been basking in the glory and the fame and the TV cameras and the adulation, Ankalaev has been in the gym brooding and being pissed off that he hasn't been getting his shot and that he's been stiff-armed off of this opportunity. So I know I'm going to get the absolute best Ankalaev can produce. I know I'm going to get almost the best of the number because it started at minus 200. Now I'm at a pick'em, and that's a formula for me of success, and I'm going to take Ankalaev.
I like where your eyes are. The more I start to feel this out and the thought process again, I think anyone coming to Vegas tonight, tomorrow, Saturday for the fights, I mean, I would assume 70-30 being the public, of course. The only name they know coming out of their mouth would be Pereira. And maybe you sit and wait, you could probably end up getting Ankalaev at a little plus money by fight night and by the time of this fight starts, Lou.
Yeah, let's just say one last thing that I have to warn people about, and I don't like to, and I'm gonna talk a little bit in code. You're gonna have to read between the lines of what I'm gonna say here, but I have to factor it in because I am a fight handicapper, and that is the UFC is owned by an entertainment company. And with what the UFC has on the horizon coming, I can assure you, I guarantee that they really want for their future and the next short-term amount of fights, they want Pereira to win this fight because now they can really super jettison him into the next level. And that means money for Pereira and the organization. Ankalaev is there to stop it. And what I'm saying by talking about all of this is that if this fight goes to a decision, it could be really, really difficult for Ankalaev to win one.
I agree 1000%. Scroll has been going the whole time, Lou. Everyone knows on Twitter to follow you at GamLou. They can catch you on VSiN as well. Mondays, your Sneak Teep podcast. But as we always wrap up here, tell them about your website and, of course, your podcast tomorrow.
Monday podcast, Sneak Teep. We're having fun with that. We got a lot of people listening in. Tells you how many dedicated business people there are focusing in on UFC fights. Gamblue.com is where you find out everything you need to know about me and then some. So go there, check it out. You can always access me at lou@gamblue.com for questions, comments, everything else. And Jeff, I really appreciate these weekly sessions where we get a good 20, 30 minutes to just sit and talk about 3 or 4 of the great fights on each card. I try and give actionable information on each one, and so I think that between Mr. Castaneda and Mr. Petrosian, there might be a little something there for listeners this week.
Great following is always here on Twitter. You can catch it on YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors. If you came in late, just go back and watch the replay there. For myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, one and only Mr. Lou Finicaro at GamLou. Wish everyone a blessed day. Enjoy yourselves and see you soon.